ever missing a show.
So every industry has a hard-working person. Well, they say this guy's the hardest working guy in this industry, in sports, in business, in any world. I am sitting next to a guy that, for those of you, if you follow EDM, you know exactly who it is, especially with the fact that he's wearing his conservative three-piece suit, Mr. Steve Aoki. And if you don't know him, let me give you some stats for some of you that maybe don't listen to EDM and maybe you're hiding under a cave. His peers, like Tiesto, calls him that, you know, he's a whole different guy from a different planet. There's not even a guy like him in the world. Afrojack says he changed the game. They call him a beast. The guy's the hardest working guy in business. Guinness Book of World Record contacts him to say no one works harder than him. He's the hardest working musician in the world. Forbes ranked him top 5 highest paid DJs, I think $29.5 million in 2017. That's what we're sitting with today. So with that being said, Steve, brother, thank you for taking the time, man. This is really cool to sit here and talk to you, especially after watching your documentary.
Thank you.
I got to tell you the story about how I watched your documentary. So we just moved into a new house, okay? And I know your music, but we moved into this new house. The team says, Pat, you got to watch his documentary. You're a documentary guy. You'll flip out when you watch his documentary. I said, okay, I'll get to it. So I get on the Netflix phone and it's 12 o'clock last night. I'm sitting in the bathroom, which is where we watch most of our videos. And I'm sitting there with my dog to my left, all the kids, everybody asleep. I'm watching this thing and I'm like, I'm getting emotional. I got tears coming down and I'm getting fired up and I'm getting jacked up. And then I comments your mom makes, your dad. I mean, that's got to be one of the best documentaries out there with your life story.
Thank you.
So with that being said, prior to us getting into some of the business stuff, what you've done, where you're at, family, your father, Rocky, your mom, how did this whole thing start? Like, did you start off day one? Obviously, I know the story, but for some that don't, did you all of a sudden one day say, I want to be a DJ? How did that come about?
Yeah, you know, my story is a little different because I think a lot of kids in the festival games, they're in the crowd, they're 14, 15, and they see it on YouTube and they're like, I want to be a DJ, I want to be on that stage. But my world came very differently. I came from the rock world and I was playing in rooms this size. You know, when I first started, I was in high school and I would play to as many people as in this room, literally. I would literally play to like 5 people and their parents, 5 kids, they're all my friends. And that's really how it all started for me. Like for me, the most important thing I learned is that the barrier of entry to get in was conceivable. Because like when you're a kid in the crowd, you look at the stage, you're like, the barrier of entry for me to become an artist is impossible. I could never be as talented.
Yeah.
I could never have the courage, or I could never have the voice, or I could never have the skill set.
Were you thinking that like while you were looking at everybody?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think everyone does.
Yeah.
I think everyone's like, the barrier of entry is way too difficult. I don't have the training. I'm not like trained, or I don't have the school set. I found this a really vibrant underground scene of musicians and artists.
This is in Newport?
This is Newport Beach,
okay.
Yeah. It was the scene itself it's called the hardcore scene, and it's very specifically the straight edge hardcore scene, which is really a drug-free, all about drug-free lifestyle, and you just go to shows. The way you get cool points in the scene is not like with like dope sneakers and like a dope tracksuit that you're wearing, but it's like make a zine, put on a show, start a band, become a guitarist, you know, and you're becoming like, because the scene's so small, it's like a religion. It's like we are this small church and we need to expand our base by giving out like flyers. And
how old are you at this time, like when you're going through?
I was like 15, 16.
Okay.
You know? So that's what I ended up doing. I was making zines, I picked up a guitar, I picked up a microphone, I picked up a way to record music. I started a band with like my friends that didn't know how to play instruments.
So amazing.
We'd set up everywhere. We'd set up in like a plaza, and until the cops came, and we'd just grab our drum set and run away. Like literally would set up everywhere, we'd play everywhere, and if 5 people came out, we were super excited. And then I got to the point when I went to college where I started touring, and I went from 5 people to playing in front of 20 people. And I was so happy.
Still 20 people.
Yeah, like, you know, like I was 19, 20, I was like, all right, we're gonna drive 10 hours to Albuquerque, and we made $20 at the door, and we played in front of 12 people.
But
and
that's amazing that you're doing that.
It was my heart, it was my passion. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about, you know, I mean, I was a kid. I just really believed in music.
Now, who were you in high school? Were you a cool cat in high school? Did everybody know who Steve was in high school?
No, I mean, I definitely stood out because I was only like one of the few Asian people in the school. You know, when I was younger, I was bullied, and I was, you know, the whole story. I'm not gonna really get into that, but one of the most important things that I recognize now is that when I was a kid, when you're like one of the few that look different or are different or ethnically different or whatever it may be, you might think that life is hell, right? You might think that like, and some kids unfortunately take their own lives because they feel so pushed out to the side, and where people say the most horrible things you could possibly imagine. So when you're an Asian kid, if you're like a kid of color, you're someone that's different, and you get made fun of, it's like almost okay and to be accepted as that. So for me, I grew up under this guise of, well, I'm not equal to, you know, my peers.
You would think that.
Yeah, because I mean, like it just was, that's how it was. So my mom was like, we have to fit in here. We have to fit in. So don't cause any trouble. Don't rock the boat. The thing is, like, you always find the gem in the rough places. And I was able to find this scene that was like a bunch of like outcasts. Every song, every lyric from the bands that I listened to was about like, this is like, we're the outcasts. We're the people that don't fit in. Hey, this is our world. This is our community.
So who did you listen to? Who were you listening to at that time?
Gorilla Biscuits, which is like, I got my first tattoo. I was like so excited when I was 18. I was like, I got my first tattoo, and Gorilla Biscuits is the band that like kind of was one of the leaders of that sound. And it's like a way for us to feel like, hey, we are something. Like no one can tear us down. Use an instrument. Be a voice for yourself. Be a voice for your community. And I just took that same kind of process into every business, into every brand building, into my music,
like
into
an underdog
everything.
Mentality type of thing, or
more of this kind of like DIY mentality, where it's DIY in my way of understanding it is you have to figure out how to make ends meet with the resources in front of you. So there's no excuses. If you have $1 to your name, you got to learn how to use that dollar to actually become a star on stage.
Have you always been a hustler like that? Like even when you were a little kid, or did that hustle part come later on?
The hustle part started because I found a scene that encouraged that. It was all about that.
Got
it. You want to get your respect, then you got to figure it out. I graduated from college and I moved to Los Angeles. And I was throwing parties, and I had my label. I started a label when I was in college, and no investment, no marketing plan, no investors. You know, very much like a passion project to support artists. And I found a few artists that blew up, and you know, like no advance, no money.
And by the way, your first place, your first office, it is very interesting. So that's the actual first headquarters of your operation.
Yeah, my first headquarters was, I'm not sure what was in the doc, but my first real headquarters was an apartment that's 900 square feet. I shared with my girlfriend at the time, and we had 13 interns working for me because they worked for free because I didn't have any money.
900
right?
square foot place.
Yeah, I mean, it was tiny. And then finally I got my first investors, which were Benji and Joel from Good Charlotte, who I taught them how to DJ back then. I would hang out with them. They were like my really close friends then. And they were in a successful band. And
who are diehard believers of you, by the way.
Yeah, they're just like really, really good people.
Yeah.
They're like, we see what you're doing. You know how to sign. You know how to identify talent. And we really love the culture and community that you're creating. And we want to help you. So they helped take me out of my apartment and put me into this like almost abandoned like little house, and I just threw all my friends in there. Some of us lived there, and we had such a really cool small little community in Hollywood that eventually became literally the place where you want to break artists. It was at the DMAC parties.
That's amazing.
From Kid Cudi, like Drake was coming through, to Kanye was coming through, to Skrillex was at our parties. Will.i.am was there every show, and then I got to meet all these artists. Because we were breaking, you know, we had MIA's first show, all these new artists that were coming up, Kesha's first shows, like from pop to hip hop to electronic. It was the culture of breaking music. The bigwigs would come through, Jimmy Iovine showed up, like, you know, I was meeting up with labels, they would come to me to break their artists. And then, you know, some of the guys were like, I'll take a risk with you and do music with you. And I was like, let's get in the studio. And so I was lucky I had that platform that we had to build our own little culture that just spawned into, you know, something that was actually truly underground, because back then there was no social media. I mean, the social media was like MySpace, so there's no Snapchatting.
What year is this, by the way?
It's like 2005 to 2009. And if you want to hear about the underground, if you want to know about the underground, the only way is you have to go into these clubs, these small little places. Now it's not so, you don't have to really go there. It's everywhere. It's just like, you want to know about something that's breaking, you go online. And before, you'd have to go, and like people would travel around the world just to come to our little parties where you'd see like all these different
collaborations,
music influencers and people that would all really value the time there. And then I would be able to work with some of these artists, and that's how I was able to start.
Were you at all thinking about money? Were you at all thinking about what we're going to build, the business we're going to build? Was that on your mind as well? Was it just purely art, creativity? You know, let's produce something nice here together.
You know what? Even to this day, 2018, it's always been about creativity. It's never been about money. I mean, at the end of the day, of course I am thinking business now because I'm at a larger scale and I have to think about the business. But if I put the money before the creativity, then the authenticity like almost gets blocked, you know? So I have to really, because my business is all about authentically being creative. That's my business. It's like, I want to be authentically creative and share that experience. Because at the end of the day, whatever I do is about, I am making creations, whether it's product, fashion, this is not mine, but like fashion to music to a live experience. I'm creating something that I'm sharing with you. Now, if I'm like, I need money first before you even see this, you know, if I start thinking like that, then I'm gonna lose that kind of the
edge
spirit
of yours.
of it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know, like it's, you know, money will come, and I've realized that. And in some cases, money doesn't come, and I'm okay with that. And I have to go back to that and go like, this isn't about money. This is about the love of what I do. And sometimes you have to stop and think about that. And as a businessman, you know, you have to like take a step back. Go like, this isn't about dollars and cents. This is more about just the pure love of creating and sharing your art.
Let's transition to a whole different topic here. One of the things that I'm fascinated with is stories like parents. I look at my own family. I grew up in a very weird family, complete, like one on this side, one on the complete. My mother's side, they were communists. My dad said they were imperialists. In Iran, confusion. Like I grew up in the most craziest environment. Then you tell your story, and I'm sitting there saying, oh my gosh. So your mom, on one end, purely love. You know, she believed in you. Totally, you can do this. Go get him. Do what you want to do. You can do this. You can pull this off. You can see this woman, your mother, loves you, believes in you. You can do anything wrong by your mom. And then your dad on the complete opposite end, you know, where it was high expectation, you know, a possible shadow. How was that dynamic with your parents?
Man, yeah, when you say it like that, it's true. Like without both of them, there's no, like I am the byproduct of these two very different personalities. And thank God that my mom raised me, because I think the most important thing is you have to be founded with that love. You have to be founded with that human connection. And my dad lacked the human connection. He was very, very, very like almost, I wouldn't say cold, but he was very Japanese, very masculine, very tough love. And you never ask for a thing from him. You would never dare. He's very samurai spirit. Like,
you never ask anything from him.
You couldn't. I mean, one of the most important lessons I learned from him, someone that had wealth, had the opportunity, had everything that he built. One of the most important things I got from him is that he actually didn't give me any financial, you know, like, here's your payday, here, like, you need some help, here's some money. So he never actually, like, gave me those handouts. And I had to learn on my own, like, as if I didn't have this insane, like, superhero, kind of rock star extravagant.
Because that's common,
guy.
you know. A lot of time when the dad has the money, it kind of gets, you know.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's,
you know, like,
that's the part of your story that I think it's people resonate with. Like, this guy didn't. He comes from money, but you didn't even get money to finance your own company when you first got started.
Oh, absolutely not. But I mean, I do have to say, he helped me. He paid for half of my education in college, so I give him credit for that. My mom paid for the other half. UCSB. The UC system, awesome education for I mean, it was only $13,000 a year, you know?
This is what year? This is 90?
There's 95 to 2000. So as far as I could be, you can fact check that, but I think it was like less than 15 grand a year.
That's UCSB,
for a really
it's a
great
solid
education.
School, yeah.
So like he covered the education. My mom bought me my car, a Suzuki Rodeo that I like drove to the ground.
So something about your dad, something like some of the things I heard him say. By the way, believe me, I relate. A lot of the life as I'm reading, I'm watching, I relate to this. I think your dad said one time, first of all, for some people that don't know who your dad is, he's the founder of Benihana. He was a champion wrestler. I think he was doing speed boating a couple times. He crashed, almost killed himself.
Exactly.
There was a story about him in a hot air balloon going from Japan to US or whatever. Broke a world record. You know, all these other things that he did. He's been on Oprah Winfrey show. You know, he was on all these, Tony Curtis, I think. It was all these other names. You hear Muhammad Ali, all these names. He said something one time, and I'm like, you know, I'm really curious. How do you process it when you watch him say that? I think one time he said,
I work 16, 17 hours a day. Business comes number one, and health comes number two, and family comes number three.
Is that what he meant, or did he say it because, you know how sometimes media takes a message somebody and they kind of spin it?
Yeah.
Is that what he said, or is that really what he believed?
He lived that way. He was like, he wasn't a typical father, you know, that was there, like, you know, making sure, like, my mom was my father and my mother, like, as far as the expectation of what a parent is. He wasn't that, so that's why I'm saying thank God my mom raised me, because I'd be a different person if I was with my dad. But yeah, he was business first, and to be like, the thing is, it's like, when I saw that, I saw it for the first time in the documentary, I started laughing.
So you had never seen him say that before?
No, I never saw the interview, you know, so my first reaction was laughing, because he was just unabashed in a way where you just like, you almost have to laugh. It's like so gnarly, and you have to laugh about it, you know? So I was laughing, and now I'm looking at other people, because I watched it for the first time in Beacon Theater with like 3,000 other people, and for the Tribeca Film Festival, and I looked over and people were like, oh my God, like, that's horrible. I'm like, and I'm laughing, I'm like the only one laughing. You know, I'm like, oh shit, this is like, I shouldn't be laughing, but that's just how he is.
Wow.
Like,
so to you was normal. You're like, I don't know why people are surprised. This is the normal guy I'm used to.
That's how he is. He's just like one of those guys that just says it how he thinks it.
So there's a part of the interview part of the documentary where you're driving your team, you're telling your manager, you know, this is your job, you're doing this. So, you know, sometimes we see the final product, right? We see the art, we see the art, we see the music, we see the entertainment. We're like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing, throwing cakes, you know, 1,500 cakes around and all the stuff that you're doing. But then behind the final product, you're touring 250, he was saying 250 tour stops per year. That leaves you 100 days to yourself. Is there a part of it on behind closed doors of driving your team in a way where your expectation of the team is high?
It's extremely high.
So how do you balance that with the fun and staying loose, and at the same time, hey, we got to go out there and do our job and do it right? Because there's a part of it that's perfectionist side, right?
The fun part is a very small part of the day. It's actually just 90 minutes to 2 hours, that's it. The other hours, we're going to work, and the team has to operate at that level. So I have a high expectation. I'll almost get that. I definitely get that from my father. There's no doubt that like that side from my father has come down, and I have that high expectation. And once my team meets that high expectation, then I'm like, I feel solid. Because, you know, like, I think a common phrase for a lot of CEOs, a lot of entrepreneurs out there is that your team, you have to be the dumbest person in the room if you're going to have a successful company. You know, if you're the CEO, you want to be not the smartest person in the room. You want your team to be the sharpest sword in the game. So another thing also I learned is that, as far as building a team, I look at passion before skill set. Like, you have to have a level of skill set, of course, just enough where you know you can grow and nurture that. But you have to have the passion, and you have to have the drive to learn and be hungry And I also learned that hunger doesn't also just come with the youth. I'm 40 years old now, and I'm fucking hungry as I've ever been.
Seriously?
Yeah, still.
Tell me why.
Because like I look at like all the things that I still need to do, and there's still so much more. It's as if I'm starting from zero again.
So that hunger's still there. That fire's still in the belly.
And the more I travel, the more I learn that I know very little about the world, and I become, hungry to become that student and embrace and absorb culture and absorb and learn that I need to educate on all these things, and it's all gonna reverberate into my business, whatever my business might be, because the way I am as a person, I think this is also part of my success, is that the minute I feel something that's like really powerful, inspirational to me, the minute I feel that way, I'm immediately going into my head, and how can I construct this in a way to share it with the world? And I share that feeling in different mediums, through music, through fashion, through the live experience, through different products, through whatever it might be, that all come from this abundant amount of inspiration. And I can only get that by being around people, connecting with people, seeing different things that just like enlighten me. And then, like I said, it goes right back to me.
You see it?
Yeah, me going, I still got so much more to go, and it drives me. It drives me, and it keeps me hungry.
So that's the part where you're always in recreation mode. You're always recreating yourself, constantly in the recreation mode. Well, Steve, you got to be one of the most fascinating people I've met with, man. I mean, seriously, you're just very interesting on the creative end and also on the execution end. And you can see it here right now with the team that you put together. Brother, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us.
I
Truly.
appreciate it.
Thank you.